Hello and welcome to Ibuzz. I'm your host, Nosheen Bukhari, bringing you the best entertaining news from the showbiz world. First things first, let me quickly take you to the top stories of the day. Powerpuff Girls reboot to be reworked after pilot proved to be a mess. Emma Stone defends her Disney movie Cruella's dark storyline. Eurovision 2021 reports 183 million viewers, solid gains online. Martin Freeman teases Marvel buffs about Black Panther sequel. And Cannes gets ready for world's biggest film festival. And now moving to our top story of the day. American actress Emma Stone portrays Disney's most iconic villains in her new movie Cruella that is garnering a lot of rave reviews after it was premiered over the past weekend. To discuss this further, we have Linda E., who is entertainment journalist. Linda, welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here.
So, Linda, Emma seems to be pretty defensive after the reviews. I mean, in your opinion, do you think that she did not see this coming her way?
Honestly, I think she did. The issue with this film is that, firstly, I don't think anyone really wanted it, okay? Cruella de Vil isn't a character that I think of and I think, oh my days, I really want to know her backstory. So that was the first issue with her taking on this role. Secondly, Disney are trying to make things a little bit different. They're trying to, dabble in a bit of darkness. So she saw this coming. I'm surprised that she is as defensive as she's being, because anyone would have seen this happening.
Yeah, right. And many fans and critics have shown their surprise for the dark storyline. Don't you think that it was already obvious from the past versions of Cruella's character?
Of course, it didn't make sense for Cruella to be a light character based on the previous depictions. Her name says it all, Cruella de Vil, so exactly. I'm not really sure why, fans were very surprised at that either. I'm not quite sure what film they were expecting to get, because Disney over the last few years and their last few releases, they have dabbled with things that are a bit darker and that are more questionable and, kind of make you think a little bit more. So a little bit more adult themes. So really and truly, I didn't really care for the film. I don't think the film was necessary, but this was really the only direction they could take the character.
Right. And also Emma Stone fans have been spotting similarities between her movie Cruella and the 2019 film Joker. How much accuracy do you see in this point?
I don't completely agree. I feel like maybe there's a bit of a stretch going on there. They're both dark characters. They're both unstable characters that started off they didn't start off as bad guys. Their situations turned them into pretty much who they are. And those are the only similarities I really think are there. But that can be with the Joker or any other character arc that is set up that way. I don't think I can call them counterparts. I think it's just a bit of a stretch, and the imagination is running wild from a few of the fans.
Right. And do you think that there is a bit of confusion on the audience's minds as well, because we're witnessing villain or supervillain movies more than the superhero movies from Disney especially? So, Linda, some critics have also mentioned that the pacing suffers. So this means that the elongated scenes are what made the viewers and critics question the lack of entertainment. Do you agree to this point?
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think the issue is with a character like Cruella, they're trying to flesh out the story. They're trying to, have scenes where the viewers become invested and they feel a particular way. And by doing that, they make these scenes unnecessarily long. They kind of miss out on the entertainment factor, and it all becomes a bit of a mess, So I would agree with that. I actually would agree.
Right. So do you think that the more a focus has been on the character rather than stories these days?
to get that kind of fan loyalty, fans
Yeah.
need to believe in a character. That is what gets you, the fans buying the merch and the fans
Yeah.
wanting the sequels and, really going along with the story itself. A story is not enough. If a story is great and the characters aren't, a story can't be great if the characters aren't great. But I think they are really, really focusing on characters more and more. But sometimes that is at the detriment of the story because the character can almost feel out of place because the story itself doesn't kind of mix in. So it's a tough line, especially when they're trying to recreate things and market things for, this generation. It's definitely tough.
Right. And do you think that this character has the potential to be the next supervillain with a lot of sequels? Do you expect that?
Absolutely not. I was incredibly surprised when I heard the film was being made. I was even less interested when I saw the trailer. I do not think I'll be incredibly surprised if they continue with Cruella de Vil and this version of it, because I don't think it's worth it. And the reviews they've been mixed reviews, but I really don't think the fans are invested enough in Cruella de Vil or in Emma Stone for there to be more versions, more sequels made. I absolutely don't think so.
Right, right. And Emma Stone also mentioned that there is a reason behind Cruella's dark story, but apparently the reasons were not unfolded by her. Do you think this statement leaves yet another loophole in the story itself?
I think that's what she wants, but I'm just like, please give it a rest, okay? We saw it. She's a bit of a street urchin, fell upon hard times. We already know, she got her nickname quite early on in the film as well. There's no more to explore, okay? Leave her story there. If they want to maybe get to the point where she has, I don't know. I think they should really leave the story there.
So you mean that we also need to focus on the character because that's what the movie makers want us to do?
Yeah, they want to focus on the character, but I think the issue is there's not much going on in her character. There isn't much to it, and I'm not a writer. I can't think of an amazing way they could have made Cruella a bit more interesting. But I think they've done all that they can to. She was never a character that I wondered, oh, why is she like this? You could always tell, even from the previous depictions, that there was clearly a reason. Now I know the reason. The character just isn't enough for me. It really isn't, unless they want to create a Cruella, 2.0, and she has a child, and then maybe, the child picks up some of her characteristics, but doesn't end up bad. Okay, maybe, but as for this Cruella, leave it.
Right. We have seen the cast becoming defensive. There is a connection between all the characters. Of course, we cannot see a compromised acting by Emma Stone and other actors as well. I mean, again, I'm going to ask that in your opinion, do you think that it's the storyline that is under fire that leaves the viewers a bit disappointed?
Yeah, I think it is a storyline. I think the cast did their best, but when a story is lacking, even if you put in an Oscar-worthy performance, viewers are going to see through that. So I think the cast did what they could. The supporting actress, she did incredibly well as well. But the story itself, there just isn't enough for us to care about, for us to continue moving forward. So I don't think it's on the actors. I think the actors did the best that they could. And I respect Emma Stone for taking on the role and, making it her own in her own way. But the story itself was just lacking. It's just not enough for us to get our teeth into, and definitely not enough for us to want any more.
Right. And Linda, reopening of cinemas in the UK had been incredible, especially with Quiet Place. But then a movie like Cruella that actually kind of disappointed a lot of fan base. So do you think that if such sort of movies keep on coming, the reopening would not do much, as people have become very, you can say, familiar with the convenience of streaming at their home? So we won't be seeing much of moviegoers, keeping the vibe alive at theaters.
Do you know what? I think luckily we don't have too many more films like Cruella de Vil coming out.
Right.
I think
Fingers crossed, though.
Fingers crossed, because Warner have a great set of films that are set to be released. Obviously, Marvel have their next stages coming out, like Shang-Chi. So I think there is enough for cinema goers to still be interested, even though I don't think there's too many Cruella films that are going to be putting off stuff. And I think a lot of us, like me personally, I love going to the cinema. I even go by myself. So I don't think it's going to deter us. I think we are tired of streaming. We want to go out and eat some popcorn.
Right, right. On the other hand, Emma Stone, being defensive, is asking for yet another villain character to be portrayed in a movie, which is from The Little Mermaid, Ursula. So what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, you know what? The Little Mermaid has already started off with a lot of controversy, especially as a black woman is now playing Ariel. So I think, anything can happen in that film. I'm actually quite excited to see where they go with that film and the direction. I'm not set on Emma Stone. For me, she doesn't channel anything strong. I wouldn't see her as this great villain, and I wouldn't see her as a great angel either. I think she's quite in the middle, and that's my problem with Emma Stone. A lot of her films, I don't really see a lot going in there. Like even when she was in a Spider-Man film, I don't really, unfortunately, I don't really care a lot for her as an actress. But it doesn't mean she can't pull it off, because there have been, for example, Anne Hathaway. She blew me away as her role as Catwoman in Batman. Even what's his name, Mark Ruffalo playing the Hulk. He was a surprise hit. So I won't put it past her. The proof is in the pudding. So when I see it, we'll see.
So Linda, great discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much. Take care.
That was Linda with her views on the critics' reviews on the new movie Cruella. And now moving to other story details of the day. Powerpuff Girls fans are in for some bad news, as they will have to wait a while longer to live through their childhood memories. Reports revealed that the live-action reboot of the animated show was declared a miss by Cartoon Network CEO Mark Pedowitz. Talking to a TV channel, he gave details of why the plot is starting from the scratch after the initial results proved to be underwhelming. The Eurovision Song Contest was sorely missed after skipping 2020 due to the pandemic. Eurovision returned this year with an international ratings juggernaut. According to data published on Tuesday by the European Broadcasting Union, organizers of the annual party, some 183 million viewers tuned in for the 65th Eurovision, won by this year's Italy's group Måneskin. That is an increase of more than 1 million viewers on the previous edition. The May 22nd grand final in Rotterdam was particularly eye-catching, posting a 4 percentage point greater TV audience share than the most recent finale in 2019. Hollywood actor Martin Freeman is giving a glimpse at what Marvel fans can expect from the forthcoming Black Panther sequel. The Hobbit actor, who plays Everett Ross in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, spoke on the One show about Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and shared his excitement about the project. The Sherlock star further said that while the sequel is very much happening, he will have to keep his lips sealed because, as you will have guessed, Marvel have sworn us all to secrecy. And the 5-star Palace hotels are in full swing. The sound of music drifts across the beach, and after a horrible year blighted by the coronavirus crisis, the French resort of Cannes is finally buzzing again as it gears up for its film festival. Last year, the world's biggest film festival was cancelled because of the pandemic. With France slowly emerging from a partial lockdown, the 2021 edition was delayed from the usual May date to July 6th. The festival is to announce its lineup on Thursday, with industry insiders speculating on a pick rich in big names. And it's always a treat for movies to hit the theaters for the fans. We will take a quick short break here. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after some more news. Welcome back to our next segment, in which we will be discussing the reopening of live music. The music industry has been hit hard by coronavirus, with live performance revenue the biggest casualty. The industry is fighting back with new ways to monetize music consumption and innovative models. And now, when the vaccination procedures have started all around the globe, doors to live music have finally begun to open. To have further discussion on this, we have radio presenter Owen Stanley with us. Owen, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me very much.
So, Owen, tell us what to expect as live music starts to re-emerge after COVID-19 lockdowns.
Well, I expect to be a lot of difference from what we were used to before COVID, and also a bit of the same, because we were saying before we come on air, like the main thing that people who have been lucky enough to go to the test events that we were talking off of there, the ones in Liverpool, the rave and the gig, it's sort of something you go to at the time, and then you realise just how much you missed it from before, and how you'd think the time that's gone by, you sort of just not forgotten, but sort of like lost the feeling of what it is, and just how immersive it is to be in an audience with a live band playing or a live DJ or something like that. Because live music is so important to people, and we've had sort of gigs going on at the minute that have been sort of done where they put people in sit people down in tables, all groups of 6, so you're not allowed to stand up, you're not allowed to, you know, mix with other tables nearby, and it's been a bit of a different one. I think it's very weird. That's something that when I first went to one with the tables, I was expecting, like, you know, live music back, which is fantastic, and everyone who played was fantastic and did their part, but it did have a bit of a weird feeling to it, because it's not something that we do on a normal before COVID times, but it's a step in the right direction, obviously.
Right. And do you think the damages live music industry has faced, they're now repairable now that the live music industry and the scenario is opening?
Yeah, I do. I think the government didn't give enough funding initially, but I think that's starting to change now. And I think the thing with it is, when you have artists who are big and they've been big for years and years and years, they can manage to survive with all the money they've made before, and how they can still push albums to a well-recognised audience. Whereas you have the independent kind of artists who I focus on my show. I play all tracks from bands who you may not have heard of, who give a leg up into the industry, and they're the ones who have really suffered the most. It's not just the artists, it's the people who work in the venues, like even people like you wouldn't think of, like the bar staff in venues, the people who do the sound, etc., etc. And these are people who have suffered the most. And I spoke to a lot of artists the past year or so who just live off live music. They love performing, they love going city to city, downtown, just trying to get a gig and just do what they love doing, which is performing, and they've not been able to do that. I know quite a few people that had to take up side jobs, say in supermarkets or coffee shops or whatever. They have to do to get the money in, but obviously they want to be performing on stage, and it's been a loss of revenue for them, for promoters, etc., etc. Sort of been like a bit of a effect in that sense, where everyone's sort of been hurt by it. And we have obviously June 21st is the deadline in the UK for apparently all coronavirus constrictions to be gone, which will be is essentially the green light for live music venues as we know and love them to return and to get back to normal. And sadly, there's been casualties along the way, with some venues, some of the most loved venues in London specifically, have had to close their doors over the past 16 months or so, because they simply couldn't afford to survive, which is really damaging.
But Owen, we are still in an experimental zone where we keep hearing the news of some music festivals being cancelled or changed to into an online event. Do you see a permanent solution for the revival of live music in this life after Corona?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, we talk about sort of festivals that have been done online. There was one really small festival last year, towards last year, which is a charity of mine, it's a mental health charity, and it was called Headstock Festival, which I did a bit of work on, and it was a virtual festival with a lot of bands raising money for mental health awareness and stuff like that, and that was a really good thing to get out. Obviously, globally, Glastonbury is the biggest festival, not only in the UK, but I'd argue quite strongly in the world as well. Everyone knows what Glastonbury, what it's about, and that was 2 weeks ago. They did that virtually, and it went down really well once the live stream started working again after some technical issues. But that was something that was absolutely massive. And I think in terms of a solution, people just want to get the green light, the safe green light, where we can go to festivals as we normally would. I think as well as certain companies and institutions have done to get these virtual gigs on, they've been fantastic in what they've had to work with. I don't think it's something that not only the audience want to have permanently, but what they want to do as well, because they want to be promoting actual gigs as well and getting back out there, and that's what it's all about. And hopefully that, although it was such a fantastic thing at a time of need, it can be something that can come back perhaps for specific events maybe, but I think everyone really just wants to get back out there again. And you saw it in the test events when you talk about how we're still in like a testing sort of period, and the restrictions for that were absolutely zero, no masks, no social distancing, etc., and you had to have a test on the way in. So,
but some organizers have announced shows without restrictions now. Do you think that it is a fair idea?
I think it is, yeah, because I think at some point with, you know, like yesterday, for example, when in England we had 0 deaths, and which is obviously an incredible sign as well. And I think there has to be a point where, you know, you can't keep the doors closed for so long, because as I was talking about earlier, like some of the venues that I know and love have already had to be sacrificed because they couldn't afford to stay open any longer, no revenue coming in, etc. I think there has to be a point where you've got to just put it out there, because you can keep having test events and you can keep prolonging it, but at some point the test has to become a reality, and then you have to go from there. And I think it has to happen at some point. I think in terms of just general gigs where it's just like you know, one indoor venue, very different to obviously a festival like Reading and Leeds, for example, which it's the second biggest festival in the UK behind Glastonbury, which has a massive amount of people trapped in the same, getting drunk and all having a good time. And obviously social distancing there would be difficult regardless, but I think that's the sort of thing where I think I understand where people are a bit skeptical about festivals, because it is such a large amount of people. I know it's outside, and you know, the contraction of the virus is lesser outside than it is indoors, but I think that's one where I can understand where people are coming from. But at the same time, I think at least if you're going to do it and you want to be a bit more careful about it, I mean, it's a massive place, that festival. Like you can have it with maybe limited numbers if you absolutely have to, but I think as it stands, all the major festivals such as Reading and Leeds, Glastonbury's obviously been done virtually. We have likes of Why Not and Truck and etc., and they all at this moment in time are planning on opening full capacity. Right.
And Owen, do you think that we still need more platforms for these emerging artists and musicians that we just spoke about, especially the underground musicians? I mean, of course, we have been viewing and witnessing a lot of online events, but how much more there is a need for creating more platforms for these emerging artists?
Yeah, you need all the platforms you can get. I think it's the same with whatever sort of line of work you're in. You know, you need a little leg up on the way, and that's basically what I do on my show, Another Beat Radio. It's called the Future Becking Show. We just play all indie alternative guitar sort of bands and artists that are quite unknown. We give them a platform. That's us doing our bit as well. And I like to go out and promote my own gigs in venues and play those that I put on as well, and just give these sort of people a platform. There's loads of great people for that sort of thing as well, especially on social media. There's people like Gio Blackman, someone I know who runs Happy People PR. There's a lot of great examples. Someone called Sam Scheider as well. Robert Carlyle is a very famous Scottish actor. Yeah. He's on Twitter and he promotes all these sort of bands on the Saturdays as well, and gets everyone acknowledging who they are, and they're people who are sort of pushing this movement, because as I said earlier, these sort of artists on the ground are the ones who need the help more than us.
Right. And the festivals are greatly missed, and no online event can ever take place of live concerts. But at the same time, how effective have you seen these online events? I mean, how effective have they been for the musicians overall?
Well, they've been really effective for a lot of musicians. There's been festivals in the UK that have been done via online that have actually that you bought a ticket online and the money goes towards, it's shed across the artists who are involved in it, which gives them a little bit of extra revenue as well. And it's really good for them, because as I said earlier, they're desperate to go out and play gigs. Like you know, as much as they can't do it, they always want to try and find a way. And it sort of goes back to the old like British way of getting through music. You know, you have buskers on like by the Thames in London burn a dime, and it sort of goes like it's gone into a different world virtually now, and there's a lot of reason for people to tune into them, especially over the past year or so, not only to support young artists because we're so lost without live music. These live music events as a sense of escapism, you know, sort of getting back to what they used to, maybe not in the same manner as it is, or hopefully will be very soon, back to normal, but it is incredibly important. A lot of people have benefited off that as well, so it's been a good run. Yeah, COVID times.
And Owen, please tell us about the response by these festival goers. The two festivals that you have been talking about, how was the response from the audience, from the festival goers had been so far?
Well, yeah, as I said, they were both in Liverpool. The first one was a rave event, I think. It's not really my sort of music, but essentially just there's a DJ and everyone's having a good time. The other one was a gig inside a tent in a field, which featured Blossoms and La Femmes and Zuzu, all three great British artists. And basically, I think you had to go there and you had to have a negative test beforehand. And obviously, once you got in there, with it being a child event, there's no masks, no social distancing, all restrictions are absolutely gone. And I think the response was absolutely brilliant. It was just great going onto social media afterwards, seeing loads of pictures from it, and just seeing people so happy that they've been able to see live music again, because it's something that I think you maybe take for granted. I mean, there's been a few times where I've been asked to a gig and I've said no, and I look back at it the time we're in now, so I really wish I went, because I'm that desperate for it. And obviously there's going to be more coming out of that in terms of test results, etc., but people just, they were so desperate to be there, and it was a great environment. Just watching videos and seeing everyone together again, it felt like it had never gone away. That's the power of music, really.
Right. Owen, thank you very much for being with us today. It was a great discussion.
Thank you very much.
That was Owen Stanley on the reopening of music festivals. And that is it from today's episode. We will be back with some more entertaining news next time. Until then, take care and goodbye.